Hello, and welcome to the 2015 two-player print-and-play contest, hosted by BoardGameGeek, curated by Nate. Uh, and today we are here with Todd Sanders. And he
Hello.
is going to, here you go, Todd. Where are you? There you are.
Yep. Hi.
So you have the game of
Diatomica. Yes.
Diatomica.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful game of what would that be called? What's the eloquent design, right? It has some unique shapes on the cards.
Yes. It's basically a battle line game, which if you know Shot and Totten and
Okay.
Battle Line and some of the others, sort of that format.
I love it.
Strife, a new Kickstarter game just came out recently. That's another battle line game. So, there's a row of sort of territory cards in the middle, and then you're playing cards either side to battle for those territories. That's a very simple format. As usual, I tend to do things a little left field. I found all these really cool Victorian illustrations of diatoms and pollen, which are really small-celled organisms that date back millions of years. In fact, have some really interesting fossil skeletons. And I really like those images, and I wanted to do kind of a science fiction bio-mech sort of game, so that's sort of how it came about.
I love it.
So yeah, I was lucky to find those illustrations. I think they really added a lot. A lot of people ask me about the artwork, and I actually tend, at least for the contest, to use a lot of public domain stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I kind of keep vast archives of things as I run across them so I can use them as I need them. So I've got all these Viking illustrations from some book from the 1800s, and I've got the Chinese opera illustrations that I'm using over in the court of Yangtze on the solitaire contest. But yeah, this came together well for these. So the Diatomica, the diatom part is the those organisms.
I love that theme where you bring in a small-known historical fact, and then you just spin it to be a little bit of fiction in there, right? To create some.
Yeah, I mean, it provides a narrative structure usually for my games. I tend to start from that sort of narrative story idea and then build the mechanics and graphics at the same time as I'm going along. So I've always got to have that kind of hook, and that's what sort of gets me going on how the mechanics work.
Todd, how consistently do you use that framework of anchoring on a historical archive and then spreading out into fiction?
Oh, pretty. That's the way it usually tends to work. The Shadows upon Laughter series I did; those are all French city illustrations from the 1500s. That worked out well to find those. Often I'll keep these things around until I decide what I want to do with them. I'm working on actually a new game about the Tempest right now, and so I've been collecting public domain storm paintings from the 16, 17, 1800s that are going to be used for that game. So that's sort of, it's always kind of a generative idea. I mean, the mechanics are strongly tied always, I hope, to what I'm doing sort of graphically, because they're built both at the same time. I don't sort of make this generic mechanical game and then slap on the artwork on top. The two things are very much integrated because I'm a graphic designer by day, so I'm always interested in the visual quality, and that kind of tends to spur things. Sometimes it gives me dead ends. There's plenty of games I've abandoned that look good, but they don't work yet. So it has its drawbacks, of course. But yeah, I'm pleased with how this one came together. It's got a little bit of an icon Race to the Galaxy heaviness to it, but hopefully the icons are all kind of logical. And I gave everybody a couple sheets of what all the cards do, so as they learn the symbols, should be pretty easy to learn. Everything's color-coded as well, so there's always references to things.
So those shape cards are the iconic main resource, kind of like, anchor points to the game. And
yes, there are ships that each of the two players in the game has, and there are two ways to play. One is with strictly everybody has the same number of ships and the same kind, and the second is kind of a card drafting version that once you learn what the ships do, you may be more partial to one type of ship or another. So it was somewhat of the design was to getting the ships to be balanced, so all the ships do something equally interesting. Some of the ships are strong in one way, some of the ships are strong in another way, so that there's no kind of I just want to focus on getting just these ships here. So that if you get ships that aren't ones you may want to use at first, there's going to be at least an opportunity to integrate those in later, and you'll be have other cards to choose that will make those valuable.
Are they asymmetrical slightly, or each ship? What they do?
They are. They all do different things. Some are just strictly power ships. Some are ships that allow you to kind of manipulate the rest of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Another kind of key factor to this, unlike most of the battle line games where the locations you're battling over are all sort of the same, or they may have one power or one ability, I actually figured out to use D&D dice because this is all about battling across the multiverse, so the different dimensions. So each of the different D&D dice sort of physically shows that dimension. So we have a 4-sided die, 6-sided, 8, 10, 12, and 20. Those dice then are used as a mechanic to count down the amount of power available within that particular dimension.
That seems cool.
Each of the cards has a value that drains energy from those dimensions. So some of the ship cards that are very powerful also drain energy very quickly. And so there's a balance that you can't sort of load up on your side all sorts of cards, and really kind of hammer your opponent. Your opponent always has a chance to balance out that on the other side. So things are asymmetrical, but I pull then back a balance with the other cards and with the way that the locations work.
Oh, so the game results in. So I mean, I'm really interested in the theme. It seems like it starts from cell organisms, ancient, and moves into spaceships.
Yes, yeah. So you can think of these as kind of biomech ships of the future, where they're biological military craft.
So like a nod to those single cell organisms.
Yes. And of course, I read, as most people know, I read an awful lot of science fiction. So some of the ideas in kind of Neil Asher's world or Ian Banks, that these ships are kind of half biological, half mechanical implements with sort of AI development. So that's sort of where it comes from. And they're just cool to look at when you're building out your side of the battle line. You've got all these kind of bio ships floating around. I think it just helps with the sort of imagination, the storyline of the game.
Yeah.
So the other main difference about this game is most battle line games, you're either playing 3 cards to a side or 5 cards overall, and that is then when the battle is sort of joined and that location is fought over. I'm using a lot of adjacencies, so as you're putting cards, depending where you're putting them, the location to your left or your right might benefit from that card. Yeah. So there's much more of a strategic decision about this, and nothing is battled over until that energy is drained from the dimensions. But your cards are still useful for later on, that even though this location A has been decided, location B can still be worked on because it has the adjacencies that work together with the cards. So you're trying to build on all 6 dimensions at the same time, and then fighting the locations when you choose the best strategic point.
And those locations are themed as dimensions.
Yes, and then the theme is then strengthened by the fact you're actually placing D&D dice in each of those cards, so you can actually physically kind of see these sort of dimensions by the shape of the dice.
What residual benefits?
Atomic solids in a way.
What residual benefits do you get for area sector control, area control, dimension control?
Well, in the end of the game, it's decided through victory points, and each of those locations is worth a different number of victory points. But they also change too that it's not the one that has the most energy is not the most valuable in terms of victory points. So it's not, the players are not throwing all of their high level ships into that one area. You really have to kind of spread across all 6 zones. Because your ships are retained even after a location is defeated, you still have those adjacencies working. So you're playing cards all throughout the game in a more strategic way. It's not just sort of point-to-point battles. It's really the overlook the whole thing because you're the general kind of, directing all forces. Each of the locations then, I actually went and looked up Greek meanings of 20-sided, 10-sided, 8-sided, and so those locations are all named after those. So we have tetra as the 4, and hexes is the 6-sided. And then I have little diagrams I've drawn that are sort of reminiscent of D&D dice. And you can actually see within that, it's sort of the way the dice, if you would look at the die from the top, you would kind of see that the tetra, the 4-sided die, has a 3-point pyramid on it.
Yeah, I really like that one.
6-sided die, of course, is a square. So again, this sort of visual quality that you're seeing, these kind of higher dimensions that are drawn in kind of platonic solid sort of way. So, and I'm always interested in math and science, besides science fiction and fantasy and history, so I try to bring those kind of visual qualities in as much as possible too. So we're now both looking at the game, the PDFs, because I have that on my screen, my other screen. I think John's got it.
That's awesome. Yeah, you could share your screen. I'm trying to do the same as well with the third party.
Yeah. And then I went further. Actually the names of the different types of ships, the morphos, and some of these others. Let me see what all they are. We have viruses, we have morphos, we have cytos, phages. Those are actually all biological terms in conjunction with these diatoms, as well as some of the names of what the things kind of do, whether they're generative or, temporal. So all of the kind of language of the game has a sort of science quality to it. And, probably mixing metaphors a little bit, and somebody who's probably got a biology degree will wince at some of what I called some things, but I think it just overall adds a nice, sense of language to the game too.
Oh yeah. So we got that beautiful triangle one in the front.
Yes.
And easy to read titles, and I would assume that these are like kind of the fuel type backbone of the cards, and then toward the bottom, toward the bottom here, we got the planets, the dimensions, right?
Yeah, the ships. Oh yeah, the location cards. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
And
overall, when I started doing the design work for this too, I was looking also at sort of Victorian museum graphics and early kind of dioramas and things, and so the cards have somewhat of a Victorian labeling feel to them too, to kind of keep it quality. So the game, even though the game's all space and science fiction, the kind of feel of the game has a Victorian element to it too.
I see that on the titles, and then of course the coloring. On the dimension titles, you said you used, to reiterate, you said you used Greek.
Yeah, so in Greek they have
like hex
names for multiples of things. Yeah, so hexa is 6. Octo we know is 8, but actually there's an alternative, ogdo. Deca means 10. Duodeca means 12. Tetra means 4. And so naming these dimensions after those things.
The exact word, or did you spin it into sci-fi kind of?
No, those are the actual words. Yeah. I looked at Wikipedia and looked that up. I spelled Deca with a K instead of a C, and Icosa, these kinds of things. So I kind of tweaked them a little bit to feel a little science fiction-y, but
that's perfect.
Yeah. And then the backgrounds are all just Hubble Space Telescope photos that have been tweaked and altered to, appear kind of multi-dimensional. So again, you get that sort of feeling.
Okay, so the back of the card looks straightforward. The same dynamic sheet.
And I've actually gone on a newer iteration of the game. I've got separate card backs for locations, so those are easy to shuffle out of the deck to find those 6 cards.
Oh.
So
you delineated a couple of the by dimension?
Yeah, card types. Yeah, the dimension cards all have a separate back now.
Awesome.
Just to make it easy to kind of organize these things, and when you set the game up. It's hard sometimes when some of my games, early games I have all the same backs, and you've got to sit there and spend 5 minutes separating the cards to figure out what goes where. So I've been more present lately with designing backs differently.
What an awesome game, and to think that this game was in jeopardy of not making it to the submission.
I had a bit of a burnout there for a while. As I've been working on a book of games for a publisher in New York, and I had done 10 games for that over the course of a year, plus all my just sort of standard work, and I also was working with 2 publishers doing graphics for them for their games, and just because got kind of burnt out. So I wasn't writing the rules for this one, and finally felt a little better and sat down and wrote them. So I got in under the gun on the contest deadline. So I wish I would have done it earlier to give more people a chance to play and give me some feedback. So hopefully they'll be playing it now. I understand that I have a bit, because I do a lot of games and they've been well received, that I have a bit of cachet that in these contests people do tend to play my games sometimes more than others, just because they...
As like a ground floor, more than a few people are taking a look at it.
Right, which is then why I try to do the trade-off, and I try to do as much as possible with other people's games and review them and read the rules and offer comments to other people's work.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, you got. I see. You got Photoshop. Yeah, I got the cards up there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got what? You mean here?
Yeah, I'm noticing down in the window there.
Yeah,
that's your shop. I was looking.
Yeah, I just posted the cards. They may be a little bit in advance of development of the game, but
should I wait?
The decks. At least I can print a deck myself and.
Should I wait till you delineate the backs?
Oh no, they're on that file. Yes, that file has the correct backs on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll have to buy that one.
Yep.
Try it.
So
how many?
I mean, this game's going to have a little bit of a learning curve more than some of my games, because there are 5 different types of cards, and they all have slightly different symbols on them. But hopefully, it'll be rewarded for people to play several times over.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the blue highlight? Is that another dimension, or?
The blue. So each of the 5 types of cards has a color attached to it.
Okay.
Scroll up here. The blues are Cyto cards. Those are defensive cards. The yellow cards are phage cards. Those will draft the cards to your hand from your deck. Morphos are the energy batteries, and you need the energy to activate the powers of the other cards. Those are the green ones. Viruses are the red ones, and they are just kind of dirty tricks cards. And the white ones are the basic ships. So they're all color-coded, and the icons on the cards are actually color-coded as well. So some cards say, you get an energy for each of the Morpho cards in your display, and so that icon has the green that's attached to that, so all color-coded. And I went through, and all of my games, I try to be as colorblind friendly as possible, too. I have filters on Photoshop. So the cards are all run through those filters to make sure that even though they're not going to appear correct to colorblind people, the way that non-colorblind people see them visually, at least there's enough of a difference they can tell one card from another.
Yeah, I've noticed that even if you don't pay attention to characters like numbers or letters or shapes, you can. Let me try to turn my speaker off over here. I remember I had feedback one time. There we go. Were you hearing an echo a second ago?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Minor.
I was thinking of that the different hues, the brightness of things, and the pastel of things. Sometimes you can help.
Yes, in fact, I picked out the Diatomic, the images I used. All the viruses actually have red, blobby things. The Morphos are all circular with spiky bits. The Cytos all look kind of skeletal. The phages are all kind of yellows and faded out, and then the ships themselves all have sort of holes, and there's sort of shells with holes, and there's things you see underneath the shells. So the images are all chosen as well visually to kind of reinforce those clues. So somebody who may be colorblind playing the game can a little more quickly apprehend, one card is different from another.
And would you call these ships? These
yeah, they're all ships. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, they're all biological ships.
And so scale.
Some of them may be planet-sized, sure, but it's up to the player's imagination a bit about that. So, yeah, I could see them as one of the ships flying around, and then they're releasing all these sort of virus spores that are these kind of blobby.
So you're not controlling individuals' opinion on scale.
No.
To be abstract.
Whatever your imagination wants to bring to the game. Yeah, go right ahead.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it could be like the Borg, or it could be a micro battle.
Right. Great.
Oh.
So. Yeah, there's an interesting science fiction author named Greg Egan who has talked about producing ships that are micro-sized, and then everybody is actually shrunk down. Like they think they're full size, but they're actually really just computer, electrons.
Yeah.
So you can actually send out these micro ships that could approach the speed of light much faster. So this could be that kind of scale.
I didn't know that. I know that scale. Let's see. I know that if you exaggerate scale, then you can obviously your left arm would be on one side of the galaxy and your right would be on the other.
Yeah, you go the other way, sure.
But yeah.
Who knows what goes on in the multiverse? So
yeah.
Yeah, leave it up to the players.
Yeah, I love it. So I think that everyone's gonna want to be interested in downloading this game and checking it out. It should be one of the stronger designs in the contest.
Yeah, this is a good contest this time. There are actually there's a lot of good new people. As always, it's good to see women putting games in. I think there's some really strong first-timers as well. So, it's always a surprise. Last year with Supermarché winning the solo contest, that was that guy's first game he ever designed. And that he actually went through all kinds of iterations. The game started out to be kind of, he was really new to it, and a lot of people helped him out, and he just made the game stronger and stronger and stronger, and now it's this really, really strong, good game, and it won deservedly last year's contest. So, don't count yourself out as a first-time designer. I always say to people, don't count yourself out if you don't have a graphics skill. If I like your game a lot, I might redesign the graphics just for fun myself. I trained as an architect. I've worked as a graphic designer for the last 20 years, so I realize I have a bit of an advantage in the judge a book by its cover department. But definitely encourage everybody to make the strong games, and if they're as strong as they appear to be, I'm happy to work on artwork or design a version. I've done that in the past.
That's pretty awesome. They, with you, Todd, they know what they're going to get. It has a certain style, and it's very, very high-end quality, clean. I also like your comments about the kind of the pulse of what's going on in the BGG design forum, because the viewers of this video are, they're not hundreds. It's less than that, but they're all colleagues and actually contestants and valued people that watch this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's important to, if you have a contest entry also, I like the idea that these days these contests are moving to, if you have an entry, you've got to read or review or play at least 3 other games. Yeah. And that's, the contest and winning some Geek Gold is minor to this aspect. I learned to be a game designer by these contests. Yeah. And other people are learning the same thing. And now there are publishers looking at these games and, starting to pick us up as we get stronger, but it's the collaboration and the competition that make all of our games stronger. So definitely go out there and read other people's rules, comment on them, read other people's games. If there were a couple of years there where Jesse was building vassal modules for everybody's games in the solo contest, which he was doing just on his own time. So, yeah, I mean, I love the spirit of collaboration amongst us PC designers.
Jesse Wright?
Yeah.
Wow, that guy's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of positive things going on with this. I've been pulled into it and been, I don't show my best work. I'm still apprehensive, like the typical inventor. Mm-hmm. But I start with, what I do is I start from scratch and just say, commit to, I'm going to do this, and I put a title on it. I don't even know what it is. And then I start building something of value, and then I'm like, well, it's already out there. I can't do anything about it. It doesn't matter how cool it is. It's out there. Right. So I kind of like cut myself out at the knees by like harboring my work, by committing it to nothing, and then turning that something into something I care about.
Yes.
Like all those designers out there that have that problem, go out and fail and then turn it into prove out your skill set right online in front of everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of failure games out there. I have plenty of games that don't get out the gate. I mean, my forum thread, I am the opposite of you in that I put everything out there.
Let's talk about your forum thread. Is there anything like it on BoardGameGeek design?
Black Canyon Nick has one, and Heiko, who's a German guy who's doing a lot of stuff with Dune right now, has one. But I sort of have the largest because I just like to chat. So.
Well,
I have a lot of posts in mind, but it's a way to show people this is how I develop my games. This is how a graphic designer, does their work. These are the things a graphic designer might look at while they're doing their work. Definitely a lot of abandonware on there. I've been telling people this year I'm going through now and trying to finish off all of my drafting board games. I've got 8 or so games that are in some stage or another. Sideshow Shuffle should be done sometime soon here, and others, and I'm trying not to do anything new until I finish off these other ones. But I have games, I have games that are still 5 years old. There's one called Fairy Child, which I like very much, but I've never been able to figure out how to get the characters to work in the game. So I post that on occasion, and I find people tend to find my thread, and then they'll read back through the previous 4,000.
Yes.
Because I'm up to 283 pages of forum posts now. So
I have to be candid and honest with you that is intimidating to me, and I am try not to get into the Todd Sanders thread too much because it's a labyrinth of 4,000 posts.
Yeah, you just kind of jump in and come join us and talk to us. It's sort of over time that it's become more of a shared kind of forum as well that other people talk about design work. I'm sort of there as the kind of structure that I'm presenting my work, but out of that comes to other discussions about things. And
yeah, I noticed that you actually put your personal projects on there as well, or
I'm an artist as well as many other things. As people know, I'm actually a book publisher and a translator of French surrealist poetry, a graphic designer and a furniture maker, and I do artwork as well. I build kind of assemblage narrative objects. So I've been posting those as I do those. And the woodworking, actually, we talk about woodworking on the forum as well. And every year for
how deep is your woodworking?
The thing I usually build something out of wood.
The woodworking seems pretty intricate, and some of it's abstract.
Getting better. Yeah, I started woodworking in college when I was building my models in architecture school. Rather than building them out of cardboard, I built them out of wood. And both my father and both my grandfathers and my brother are all woodworkers. So I kind of came to it through that. And I was really, some people might not know, I was really sick about 6 years ago. And as part of my own sort of self-imposed physical therapy, I started building furniture. And these days is a nice way to not be on the computer. We're all on computers so much of the time. It's nice to go and do something with your hands and make sawdust and just, strap on some headphones and make a table and then not have a plan beforehand and just sort of create stuff out of the blue. But for me, it's a good way to separate spending all day on the computer to go do something else.
To me, I'm sure from looking at it, you have a lot of sawdust involved in that.
Oh yeah, I produce a number of bags of sawdust. Yeah, it all goes in I separate out the exotic woods, but the sort of U.S. varieties go into my compost pile then and feed the garden.
It's like perfect. I mean, all your stuff you're showing on there is like extremely polished.
No, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm still somewhat of a sloppy woodworker, but I'm getting better. I'm getting more precise. I'm actually at a point now where, as most woodworkers, when we start out, we buy the tools we can afford, and then you're going to start to find that those tools only have a certain degree of precision to them. And I'm sort of at that stage now where my miter saw is just not as precise as it needs to be. So now I need to buy a better miter saw because I know the difference now in that precision. So I'm getting better. As with the game design, it's always practice. You just keep building things. I've built 40, 50 tables, and now I'm pretty good now at building tables, and I'm getting better at these art pieces, getting more precise. I'm doing a whole series of pieces about measurement right now. So a lot of that actually has precision, which is kind of involved. If you're making pieces about measuring, you should make sure your pieces are all measured and fairly precise. in kind of an irony way. So it's coming along. And some people know I do gallery shows. I've got a teapot and a local teapot show here, and
Is that a threat? Is that a threat to pull you away from board game design?
I don't think so. It's just another alternate, and it's as many people who are creative know. If you keep being creative in only one way, you tend to burn yourself out. So if you go and work on a table for a while, or some other project, or some other way of doing gardening or cooking, or whatever, that then lets your mind relax about the other stuff. So while I was kind of having my burnout this last month for game design, I've been making furniture and sculptures. I've been cooking. Now I can come back and I'm kind of refreshed, and I can start working on games again. So
Pretty cool.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. Anything else we can cover besides the? How many years have you been in the contest series? Whether it's the solitaire or the.
I think the first solo contest was 2010. When I first started, I was making just upgrades. I did a new board for Manhattan because while I love that game Manhattan, that board is awful, and so I actually used a New York subway map and redesigned it for the boroughs of Manhattan. And then from there, I did Notre Dame Express. I took Stephen Feld's Notre Dame and turned that into an express game. And then I did the one-page contest and the dice contest, and started with the solo ones. So I think since about 2010, I've been doing these. So we used to before. Now we have the solo contest and the two-player contest, and then Odd does the kind of micro 18-card contest. But there used to be actually one-page contests. There was a dice contest at one time. There are some other sort of older ones that.
What's the definition of one page? Like an 8.5 by 11?
Yeah. Yep.
Whatever you can fit on it.
Yeah. So that includes the rules at all. Everything has to go on one page.
The rules have to go on there too.
Yeah. Yeah. So some people would do half the page for rules, and then half the page was dice faces, so you could get a Yahtzee's kind of style game, one page. Some people would do some of the games like the D6 Shooters. D6 Shooters was a one page. The same with Utopian Engine by Nick. So yeah, there's different things. In fact, you're going like that. Scott Slomany, who was the guy who invented Pocket Civ, did a pocket mod where you actually have a one page, you fold it up into a little pocket mod. But then as you're opening the pocket mod, you're actually popping out little pop-ups, or you're tearing out little tabs and things. And so the game is actually changing as you're manipulating the little booklet you make.
Oh man!
So there's a lot you can do with just one page.
Yeah.
And like Odd's contest last year, the 18-card contest, that was certainly impressive. What people came up with. We all started at the beginning going 18 cards, nothing else. What are we going to do? And by the end, there are some solid, really good, nice, and they're all genres. There's tile laying games, there's worker placement games. We all kind of found ways to how do you track things without having any tracking cubes. And there was one guy who had done something that had a vertical track and horizontal track, and then there's a card that goes on top and tracks both at the same time, so you can track two different elements with one card. I tended to do more of the magic tapping, rotate your card 90 degrees kind of thing for Do Not Forsake Me. But yeah, there's a lot of impressive stuff that happened in that contest.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, there's a lot of mechanisms you can do. You can drag a cube along a track,
Right.
rondel or something. And you get tons of value out of nothing. Yeah,
I actually have one game I started for that contest that I still get to finish. It was actually based on the Elric and Melnibone books. But I was taking the 18 cards and I was turning them into 18 times 4, 8 times 4, 32, 62 cards. So I was using the up and down of one side of the card and flipping the card over and have it up and down. So every card was actually 4 cards. So with my sort of rotate, shuffle, and flip mechanism, I could actually make a huge deck of cards out of 18 cards. So one day I'll finish that. I've got to get back to that one because I actually had 6 different dice on that as well that you could track, and it was a strange little game. So it was basically Elric was trapped in some dimension without his sword, and he had to survive. So it's sort of
It's what's that one video game with the maze where you have Portal, I guess.
Portal. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it seemed to be like Portal, and you had to find your way through the maze of the cards to one particular room, and it's just the luck of the shuffle. That's actually why the game is not working yet. Is that you could potentially, if you are having a bad shuffle, you could never get to the card you need to get to the right room to escape the game. So I've got that's the flaw right now in the in that game.
You're trying to resolve it. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have that on your deep?
Yeah, it's on the forum thread. It's, when you post this,
hard back to
I'll post some images of what the card looks like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So post this on the 2-player contest thread, and then I'll send other people some links.
Okay. Well,
eventually I'll figure that game out. It'll be a solo game. It's another kind of in your hand game. That's another contest that I wish we could get back to. Was the
18
game? Well, no, the game that play completely in your hand. If you're standing in line, sort of standing in line games. My game, Old World Colony, was that with the deck of cards and the 3 holes punched in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've actually figured out a way to do that with 6 holes and actually have 2 different levels, so you can actually level up in a game and have harder monsters to defeat, and it's just where you're shifting the holes in the cards when you're laying one card on top of another. So I'll get around to that eventually. I was working on that game. Was actually going to be, unlike the traditional kind of fantasy dungeon crawl, I was going to do actually a Japanese-style game where you're trying to exorcise evil spirits from a temple. So you actually have a monk and a samurai and a philosopher, and they actually use rice as their sort of, instead of mana, you actually have rice as your main
rice
course in the game.
Rice good even for weddings.
So that one's stymied because I can't find enough ancient Japanese artwork for all the monsters I need for the game. So yeah, a lot of stuff on my drafting table that I'll get to eventually.
Yeah, I had this new mechanic. Just might as well bring it out while we're talking here. I had this where you shield the player yourself from your cards, and then your draft, the top of your card or the back of the cards would have variations of, identify like 4 types.
Okay.
So you'd have a shared space in the middle where you manipulate a pawn maybe, and then your other player knows what's coming up next on you, but you don't. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
No, I mean, it's a little like Hanabi in the fact that everybody else can see your stuff, but you can't.
But a controlled, competitive and controlled next card coming out is
right
to the other player.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I wonder how much of your deck you know beforehand, like what cards are in your deck, so you could potentially know sort of what's coming up. But there's a large memory component, because that would be, sort of like the blackjack with card counting. As the cards are played, you got to kind of remember. All right, I played all my turn left cards. I don't have any of those left, so I know that the cards coming up that I've got more turn right cards.
You're right. I drafted it with 5 types and a 27 card deck. But after talking to you, I see the threat. It's a threat, isn't it? A card counting is a threat.
Right.
Okay.
Well, but they can make that work for you for the game. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad I brought it up.
That's why I don't play Hanabi very well, because I can't remember what everybody else has said and what's in mine. And so yeah,
I'm in there with you.
Yep.
I love the game, but I like it online because there's my reminder up there. It's like gives you an icon when you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It solves that problem. And when you're dealing with. Anyways. Yeah, I'm out there with.
I'm terrible as well at trader-style games because I don't have a good poker face, and I'm rather trusting. So, actually, the other thing I'm really bad at are are trick-taking games, like these kind of games. Because I'm used to playing kind of games we play where you hold stuff back until you want to play it for strategic purposes. But in trick-taking games, you have to play whatever the suit is. And so I always play, and I always keep the suits and lie in my head because I'm saving it for later when everybody doesn't have the suit. But that's the game, is you have to play the suits.
right, like a
So,
spades.
tricking
Like,
games are terrible,
not playing
terrible
your,
for me.
not playing your spade when they pull it out of your hand.
Yeah.
I got like about 3 million fake dollars on spades on casual game thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I love my trick taking
Mm-hmm.
very much. So yeah, I love all kinds of genres. I think my experience on BGG is, you might know this, is it's all about the thing that doesn't exist. That, the mechanic that doesn't exist.
Okay.
I've been trying to get that randomizer XY position thing, solidified into a genre.
Right.
I'll probably never achieve that, but keep work toward it.
Yeah, sure. Having goals good.
Yeah. Well, Todd, I could talk to you forever, man.
Thanks.
We have to do this again. Maybe bump into each other again.
Okay. Well, keep up good work with the interviews too. I think it's good you're doing this for the two-player designers. See who else you can get on your show, as it were.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. And also maybe we should mention Nate and the hard work he's done as well.
Yeah, he's as always, Nate has 1,001 things to do because he's in school and always writing. So it's nice to see him be able to be part of things and host the two-player contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think between him and Chris with the solo player contest, we have two really good, solid contests that have some fair rules for everybody. And
yeah, I mean, Chris has a lot of mojo going on with his contest. It has so much traction.
yeah,
is that based of like 4 years stacked or 5 years stacked?
I think, yeah, and also, Chris and Nate too, they have very well defined what the rules of the contest are and how people participate. And that framework, that structure, I think is very helpful for people. So, and it's also the organizing. It's been interesting to see over time, sort of the dates of things and everybody kind of taking their part of the calendar year. So we don't have a lot of overlap. So those of us who want to be in more than one contest can do so.
I would love to see another 18 card come. Who curated?
Yeah, that's Odd. Hackram. Odd will do another one. Certainly, yeah. He's got to get our Kickstarter together because he's now picked the ones he's wanted to do as a Kickstarter deck of 18 games using 18 cards. So he'll eventually he'll get that going here soon, I hope.
That would be awesome.
I think the plan is that he's going to mix and match games in like one of 3 decks. So you'll get 6 games in a deck, and you can get all 18 if you want, but the 6 are going to be balanced so that it's maybe all fantasy games or maybe all strategy games, or there'll be a 1-player, a 2-player, a 3-player, and a 4-player game. So your range of what you're organizing. But yeah, I think he'll do a new contest. I've been lobbying. He's wanting to maybe change the rules this year to have a die or something, or one marker, 1 pawn.
Oh,
but I like the purity, just the 18 cards. I think the 18 is smart. So cards, and still the rules have to be on the cards.
Well, I mean, isn't 18? Yeah, I think it's divisible by 3, 54.
Yes. Yeah. So a standard printed deck, because of the way that page sizes work. That's why 54 cards is because you can print 18 cards on a single sheet of paper running through a printing press.
3 times.
It's sort of the way the math of the square footage of the sheet works out. Yeah. So 18 cards then with our kind of P&P layups, it's a 3x3 layup for both letterhead, letter size, and A4 size paper. So that gets you 9 cards to a page. So it's printing 2 pages up or 4 pages if you print the backs of the cards. And with all the rules on the cards, it makes it easy. That's the best part of that contest, is that people can play the games because it makes it easy. You only have to print up 2 sheets of paper.
Yeah, and the print and play part, right?
Yes.
That's what I did with my design. I said, okay, well, you got to buy LCR, but I'm trying to use that as an asset to consolidate the the amount of pages you're printed, like,
Right.
digital, yeah.
Right. And it's tough because some people in some of these contests will have 40 pages of rules and 20 pages of components to print up, and their game may be a good game. It's just tough because nobody wants to print that, and it's a shame a bit because it sort of means that over time all games become sort of short games. And Chris has been batting around a category for long games, which now we have this sort of short form and long form. But a lot of those, I'd say designers, don't be scared of doing a long form game. It's just you may have a slightly longer road to, to hoe there because that's bringing that kind of stuff up. So these days, we've seen in the contest over time, people are now doing low ink versions of things, or they'll do just strictly a grayscale version of their game, and that's really helpful too because you can print that stuff up with a lot less ink, and try to print things out. So
one of the solutions I found in reducing the amount of content printed was instead of a randomized a deck of resources, I've used that programming and of I think Walk the Plank, where you just have like everyone has the same set of 5 cards or 6 cards, and then if it's a really awesome card, it has to stay down there for a turn. So you're kind
of delay, and playing them,
yeah. I like that. I like using that mechanic for print and play because you're getting a lot out of 5 or 6 cards. You're getting your controls, your turn left, turn right, whatever it is, fly or whatever you need to do. It's like, I can't use this for 1 or 2 more turns until I get it back in my hand. So you start controlling the game in that way.
Yes.
You can add complexity with that. Maybe you can have some other component, like some different mechanism injected into that, and if either like spend something to free up a card, or
yeah. So I guess the main point here is don't be afraid to do a game with a lot of components, but know that you're going to have to do some work to try it out.
Yeah, I think, Todd, you pull out a great point that the amount of printing, everyone's complaining about printing, but there's the other side too, Todd, the one where they want some drop-dead gorgeous art if they're printing it out that's heavy on the ink.
Right.
Versus the little, they don't want to waste their time with someone that respected their ink.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? I mean, what is that?
Those low ink versions of things, and we're all figuring it out. Every year we get a little more solidified with. We always build upon the previous year, so people now doing low ink versions. This year, the one trend that I'm slightly worried about is now people are doing video play-by-plays, so they're showing how their game plays through the video, and I'm not sure that's a road I want to quite go down. Everybody has to now make a video.
Well, that sounds like me
For their entry, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I know that this world is driven by written rules, and I've always struggled with that. I'll have to grow. I'm growing as I stick around with you guys. So.
Well, that's one reason these contests too, to get your rules out as early as possible. The earlier you can get them out, the earlier that the rest of us can read them, and some of us who might be a little stronger with the sort of grammar and explanation part of rules writing, which is the technical side of writing anything. We can help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joseph's, that's one. His 19th hole game that he's doing. His BGU's name is King Spud. He got to his rules. His rules often are all there, but they're not all in the right order. So he knows now to post them early, and then we help them out, and people made his game stronger. And his 19th hole game, which I think is for the solitaire contest, that's actually really interesting. I don't play golf. I'm not interested in sports, but he's designed a really decent, good golfing game. And it's not that many components, and he's worked hard, and the game is actually really strong. And we don't see a lot of sports games in these contests because it's hard to kind of do that. But it's definitely a game to check out. And He's an instance of another designer here who, his games early on in contests, he would have like a 60-page rule book and then like 40 pages of components. And we've, some of us who like his work and think that he's got some good ideas in there, we've been helping him over the years and the collaborative process. And the 19th hole is, I think, sort of his current pinnacle of what he's been doing. He's gotten it down that the rules are not that long, the game is not that hard to print out, but it's got the kind of large format gameplay that he likes to put in his games. So if you keep entering the contest and you keep making games, you're going to get stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope that all the first-timers are listening to this all the way through. There's a lot of value in here.
For myself, I've got to decide when I'm going to kind of retire here from this. I still want to do the solo contest, but I've been now for a while debating whether to enter any other contests. So the contests for me are a good way to design games, but now since I'm sort of starting to approach that line of being published, I have some contracts and things. There's that sort of amateur versus professional Olympic sports sort of thing that at some point I've got to say, it's been great, and I will help people out. I'll be a cheerleader. I may, offer artwork as a prize, one of these things, but I've got to kind of stop. Wow. Contests. So the solo I'll continue on, but the others.
Yeah, I never thought about that. People putting something beyond Geek Gold into the winner prize circle. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I did one year. I did offer. What was it? It was a two-player. It was Raider Jack. No, it wasn't him. It was some other guy. I did all the artwork for one of his games as a prize because he placed first in a particular category. So I don't offer that always because that can be a lot involved with that. But that might be good for the 18-card game contest that I'll not enter that one and give it a prize that I'll offer to do artwork for the 18 cards.
So you're really gonna fend off joining 2016, late 2000.
I think so. Other than the solo one, I'll keep doing just because I like that, and that's sort of its own subgenre. But
yeah, I agree. It's its own animal, right?
Yeah.
Where do you find solo games? Where do you sell solo games? Well, here's this monster that really has some quality work. That's.
I can still keep. I'll still keep creating games, put in my forum thread, but give other people a chance to come up and win things and do their work, and I'll just be kind of a cheerleader role, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know if I had drawn the line in the sand like that. I intend to self-publish a Kickstarter, and I invest in artwork, illustrated work, with that intent in mind. Jackie Davis and a couple other people I don't know. I can't name drop them, but I've invested quite a bit in trying to get stuff out the door. I don't know if that's going to stop me from doing that.
Yeah, it's a personal choice. I just at this point it's sort of I kind of feel like I should.
No, I think you're right, because in the future, if you're an insider, you're going to have companies coming up to say, I want a game, and you're going to have to build it from scratch, right? That's the end goal with being a game designer.
Yeah.
So, there has to be a transition there, right? So.
I mean, I'm not the first. Nick, who's Black Canyon on BDG, he's now working as a full-time game designer, so he's not entering contests anymore. So I think that's fair.
Yeah. Well, I'm loving I'm loving the contest so far. I'm glad to have this opportunity to talk to you.
Thanks.
That's some of the positive results of it. So.
All right. We'll see who you interview next.
Yeah.
That
absolutely. Thanks, Todd, for joining.
All right. See you later. Bye.